Hello, everyone, and welcome. If you could use the chat window and let me know that you can see and hear me and see the screen, that would be fantastic. Perfect. We're going to get started. Thank you for joining our free monthly webinar on the second Tuesday of the month. Today, we're going to be talking about CRM meets CX, client experience. I'm Courtney Kearney, founder and owner of C. Kearney Consulting. We are a CRM and data management consulting firm. We're excited to have you on the call today. And if you attended our last webinar, you heard our big news. If you follow us on social media, then you know, but in case you don't, I wanted to let you know that I have co-authored a book about CRM, and we are in the middle of picking our covers. So I'm going to drop into the chat window a link if you want to go out and vote for the white cover on the left or the black cover on the right. Feel free to click the link I dropped into the window to vote and participate. And then we're going to be doing a reveal later on this month to let you know which cover we go with. I did realize that I have forgotten to share the link to the slides. So there is the link to the slides for today. If you head out to our website on our resources page, there are a ton of resources available to you. I will drop that link into the chat as well. You can have past events, watch past webinars, look at recaps of previous user group calls, things like that. For our upcoming events, we have the Thursday, November 11th coming up. We have the CRM user group. We have Brandy Wilkins that is going to be our guest speaker. She works at Layton Construction, and she's going to be talking about making data fun. Recently, they launched a data campaign to make data fun, so she's going to be sharing that with us. December 11th, we're going to be having another user group call. And in December, we're going to be taking off for the month and having no webinars. So no free or paid webinars for December. Getting into the contacts or the content for today, we're going to be talking about CX. First, I have a poll question for us. I'm going to go ahead and launch that. Do you have a CX plan? Do you have a documented client experience plan, whether that's just a journey mapping, empathy mapping, any of that kind of documentation in relationship to CX? We've got 50% participation, so I'll give us another 20 seconds to answer that question. All right, 100% participation. Thank you so much for answering that. Let's end the poll and see where we're at. All right, so 10% at yes and 90% no. Hopefully after today's webinar, you will have the inspiration or have the encouragement to go ahead and begin that process of documenting your client experience. So a little bit about CX. What is client experience? At the root of CX, it informs business strategies and keeps staff informed. It also allows you to document what your client goes through when they interact with your business. It informs, CX and CRM inform one another. We'll look at the unity between the two in a couple slides, but really, your CX can inform what you need to be tracking in CRM, and your CRM can impact your CX. If you have already documented your strategic plan and your company values, that's a really good place to start with your CX. Your client experience should tie back to your company values. If you have a strategic plan like increase are client retention. That is part of your client experience. So how will you positively impact your client experience so that you can increase that retention? If some of your company values are customer excellence or customer success, things like that, that directly ties to your client's opinion of you, how they see you, then that can also, tying it to your values and your strategic plan, can get you some of that buy-in from the leadership to put resources and energy into creating a CX plan. CX does require that you understand your clients, and you can start by building those personas. I recently gave a presentation at SWRC on this topic, CX meets CRM, and my co-presenter, Amanda Rao with Pixels Inc., put together a persona worksheet. I just dropped that into the chat window. That worksheet walks you through getting in the shoes of your clients. So what keeps them up at night? What are they reading in their spare time? What organizations are they a part of? So that you can understand where your clients are at so you can meet them there. Everyone has a role, a data role specifically in CRM and CX, whether that's data collection, whether that is tracking the interaction that you're having with your client. Everyone has a role in both CRM and CX. When it comes to data, there are 6 roles that my team has identified. I'm going to drop in an article, if you haven't read that, into the chat. So really looking at data editors, that is the majority of your company. Everybody should be a data editor. When you take your data stewardship seriously, everyone is entering or updating data, whether that is contacts that they know, whether that is the receptionist at the front who is responsible for that first impression of your business, where it is the staff, that is the technical staff that's interacting with the clients at status update meetings, whether it's on the job site. All of those people have contact information or project information that needs to be updated, that they're responsible for that data. Now, the auditors are looking for missing information or incomplete information. Things like, does every contact have an email? Does every company have an address? Is the address complete? Does every record have a state or a zip code so that we can mail physical mailers to them? Auditors are also looking at things like, are the widgets on the dashboard displaying everything that they should? Does every opportunity have a fee so that when we're looking at certain widgets or our leaders are looking at reports, that they are looking at the entirety of our data and things aren't missing? The data analyst is looking at, what are the trends? Are we chasing the right work? What are the project types or the contract types that are the most profitable to our business? What markets are the most profitable right now? Is that changing? Did the pandemic affect what our markets are doing? The trends, all of that come from those that are analyzing the data. Then there's the data consumers. The consumers are the ones that are taking the insights from the analyst and making decisions based on that. They are turning that insight into knowledge and taking that knowledge and turning it into competitive advantage. The data leaders are the ones who are putting the policies together, the responsibilities and expectations matrix. The leaders are the ones that are saying, hey, it would be really great if we started tracking this at project setup so that we could have these analytics. Or it would be great if maybe we got this specific system, let's invest in Power BI. Whatever that is, the data leaders are the ones that are pushing those concepts forward. And then the data officer is the one, whether it's the CRM manager, the chief data officer, the CIO, whatever that it is the main person that is driving all of these. So they're making sure that the company does have data leaders, that the business leaders are consuming the data. All of these roles have to be in play, and everybody must understand their expectations, that are set on them, and then their responsibility to upkeep it. If everybody plays their part, and some people have multiple hats, some people are editors and analysts. Some people are auditors and on the leadership team. So really looking at everybody's role, and everybody needs to understand it, is vital to the CRM and the CX success. CX triggers in the CRM. So what does that really look like? Some of the CX triggers can be onboarding a new client. So when you win a project and you have that opportunity in your CRM and it's converted to a project, hopefully this is a CX moment for you. Lord, help us that the first thing that the client hears, hopefully, is not, give us your money, here's an invoice. Instead, hopefully it is, we're so excited to work with you. Here's some information on how the process is going to move forward. Let's get a kickoff meeting scheduled. Let's take you out to lunch to get to know the team. Hopefully it is something personal and not just, here's your first invoice. So really taking a moment to look at your CX moment around onboarding a new client. The meetings and networking, whether that is ongoing meetings with your clients that happen out the job site or happen in your office as you're designing the project, there's networking that goes on during those meetings. Is your staff prepared for that? Do they know how to handle that from a client experience perspective? And if they get information during those meetings about a potential new project or about the relationship, maybe they know that their kid is going to be in a play or graduating college or what have you, those are things that you can celebrate with the client. In those networking moments, do they know where to put that in the CRM? Do they know how to capture that? And then the closeout of the project. Typically, when you're looking at the client experience journey, you've got up and downs from we meet, we get to know one another, the proposal comes out, there's all these ebbs and flows. When a project's end, it's like a cliff, like all the communication drops off. It doesn't have to be that way. So if you build in reminders to your CRM, like the project is closed out 6 months ago, let's ask how the project or how the building is. You've been in the space for 6 months. How's it going? Once that 11-month walkthrough comes through, celebrate with your client that they've been in their space for a year. Have a little birthday postcard with their project photos or what have you. All of those things are CX moments that can be triggered by your CRM. If you have tracked that project's completion date, then it can trigger and say, they've been in the building for 6 months. Let's have a touch point. That's when business development can take back over that relationship from the operations team. Making sure that all of those triggers are also tied back to your CRM is important so that you can have that documentation. That leads me to the unity part of this. So really the unity that brings the two together. Before this presentation, Amanda and I realized that I'm kind of in this CRM lane and she's in the CX area, and the two just don't seem to come together for our industry. So really looking at the CX piece, that is what's driving the questions. That's what's driving the, what are our clients doing? Where are they? What can we do in marketing to bring them in? Can we have roundtable discussions to help educate them? All of that forms the questions, whereas the CRM is the documentation. It is the one that's driving the triggers or the documentation of when you have a CX experience, this is where the results of that need to live. CX can also include things like the client survey or the project survey. How's the project going? The one thing I'll say is that, don't just collect data for data's sake. The worst thing you can do is ask your clients for their time and then do nothing with it. So your clients want to make sure that they feel valued and heard. So if they're going to take the time to fill out a survey, whether it's online, a phone call survey, a written survey, whatever that looks like, you want to make sure that you do something with that. So acknowledge a thank you for filling it out. If they give you negative feedback, you still need to do something with that so that they feel heard and valued. The CX is really externally focused. What do our external clients or external people feel about our business, about our processes, about how they go through the life cycle of a project or pursuit? And CRM is internally focused. How do our people handle that experience in documenting, in the steps of taking time to document, I had this conversation, or I learned this about this person. So really the CX is thinking about the external, CRM is focused on the internal. CX is also the vision. It's where we want to go with our clients. It's the ideal. If in a perfect world, our project went as planned, they would be welcomed very well. At 25%, they would get certain things. At 50%, the BD person would get back involved. At 75%, we would invite them to complete a different survey. At 100%, we would give them a coffee table book with the sexy photography in it, signed by our team. And then at the year, we would celebrate that they've been in their space for a year. And then every quarter after that, the business developer would take over and continue to have those touch points until they're ready for a next project. And then they put out another RFP, so forth and so on. And we go through the process. The CX is the vision. It's in the ideal world, this is how we want it to go. CRM is more of that proof. It's the analytics. It's the metrics of, is this happening? In the course of a client's life, how many CX moments did they actually have? If you're tracking that in your CRM, then you can see, yes, we had a great onboarding with this client, or our onboarding didn't go so well, but our completion experience went really well. If you're able to have your vision or your CX plan and outlined, then it's time to marry that CRM fields with that and say, okay, this is our CX moment. Just take one, start small at the kickoff. Marketing is going to help and come on board with the onboarding process for clients so that we can offer to help plan the groundbreaking or ask them what they have planned, so that maybe you're working with a church and they don't have any marketing staff, and you can be that resource to create the flyers so that their membership knows when the groundbreaking is. Maybe you work with higher education and they have a marketing department, but their marketing department doesn't fully understand B2B because they have mostly, college knowledge about marketing to college students. And you can help them set up a site to keep the project information up to date for their students. Whatever your resources are, embedding that in the kickoff for your client so that you can offer those to them if you're able. Well, if that's the case, then how are you documenting that in your CRM? What is the follow-up to that? Is it that in 6 weeks, you're going to follow back up and see, is there anything I need to help you do to update that website? We took groundbreaking photos. Would you like them? Any of that kind of help leads to that client experience, so that when they're ready to do another project, they go, this was the best experience we've ever had, because we were able to not just get a GC, or we were not just getting a designer. We weren't just getting a team of engineers. We also got a great experience where you helped us holistically and not just you were the engineer on the building. So really helping to marry the two is important so that you can use your CRM to support that client experience. This is with our last 10 minutes up for discussion. If you want to use the Q&A panel or the chat to interact with any of the information that I've shared, that's great. While y'all are typing, I'm going to go ahead and share the persona worksheet. So here on my screen, hopefully it has switched and isn't just stuck on the PowerPoint. But here is the persona worksheet. So again, you're documenting what are their interests, what are their likes, where have they previously worked, what do they care about, what are their business disruptors, where do they want to take their business in 5 to 10 years. If looking at the experience earlier of higher education, are they looking to get into a completely different avenue as far as they want to be the leaders in life science? Well, if you're experienced AE or C in life sciences, then that is your ideal client to definitely help them get to that in the next 5 to 10 years. Who's the ideal partner for them? What do they read? What is our role in supporting them? So this is a great worksheet to go through to help you really get in the shoes of your clients. This is something that you can also, I see a question, is the persona meant for a company or an individual? So it can be either. This is meant for an individual. So what is that individual like? And this can also be used for like right before when you're putting the proposal together and you find out who the selection committee is. This is great to do if you know who the individuals are that make up that selection committee, so that when you're giving examples, you can give examples in the shortlist presentation that are specific to that selection committee. Great question, Karen. Thank you. I think it can be tweaked for a company. Like if you're looking at where do they want to be in 5 to 10 years, that kind of plays into that company piece. But I think it's mainly focused on the individual. What advice would you give for how often you should have a CX touch point? Great question. So the kickoff, 50%, 90%, 100%, other, in between. So one of the things I would say is it definitely depends on what market you're in and how long your projects are. So I know some of us, our projects can be 3 years long. Well, in that case, I wouldn't say, one CX touch point is enough. But if your projects are 3 months long, then I would say one touch point is plenty. So really, it depends on how long we're talking. But I think that a good thing to aim for, again, this is ideal, would be a touch point per quarter for your clients. Now, that you have to pull back and think of what are you doing as a whole for your clients. So if you do something that touches all of your clients, like client appreciation every fall, then that would be the touch point for that quarter. So you would want to take that into consideration. Thinking about your projects, I think it depends on your size of your staff as well. You want to make sure that your touch points are not just from the same individual every time. You want to make sure that you're doing that zipper effect or the ladder effect, so that the first kickoff can be a touch point with the project team or that project lead. Sure, absolutely. But you want to make sure that the business developer gets reintegrated into that client before the project ends, so that they can have a touch point that's either checking in on the project or scheduling lunch, whatever that is, so that when the project ends, that business developer is already back acquainted with the client, so that they can hopefully continue that conversation and that relationship to the kickoff of the next project. So I think that the question is great in the sense of what is my advice on how often you should have a CX touch point? Definitely aim for once a quarter. And that's not just project specific, but for your clients in general. Great questions. Thank you. All right. It looks like, is this? Nope, that is from the poll. So let me close that window. I have lost my clock. Any other questions? Let's see how much time we have. We've got 5 minutes left. So any other questions before? Let's see if there's anything else I shared that maybe I could share. I feel like I touched on it, but here are the data roles in that article that go a little bit more in depth. Looks like we have another question. Do you have an example of a CX moment in your CRM? I don't think I have it in our demo account, but I know for us for CKC, we track our client's anniversary date on the company record. So that is, yes, we track when they became a CKC client, but so that's one field when they became a client for us. And when their anniversary is, so when they have big milestone anniversaries, we partner with them to celebrate that. So one of our clients just celebrated 40 years, and we made sure that when that date popped up, 30 days before, we're so excited that you guys are celebrating 40 years. Are you going to do anything fun, have an event, anything like that? And we also watched to be able to share their social media posts around it. So those are two examples. The other one, when they have an anniversary for their CKC anniversary, we celebrate that as well. And we typically do I'm blanking on what it's called, not sweet treats. Oh, I think I might have, no, I don't mind. What is the name of it? It's going to drive me crazy. There's a thing online that you can gift candy, popcorn, things like that to your client, and they get to pick out what candy they want. I forget. Sugar Wish. Thank you, Stacey. Yes, that is right. So we do Sugar Wish to celebrate our client's anniversary with us. So yay, you've been with us for a year. Here's a sweet treat on us. See, I think that our note says that. That's why I keep thinking sweet treat. Or if you've been with us for 2 years, that kind of thing. Now that we've hit 5 years, we are looking to do like, what should we do for our long-standing clients? Like, should we send swag or something like that instead? But regardless, to answer your question, yes, we track those dates in our CRM so that those trigger those CX moments. Was there another one that popped through? Oh no, someone had to jump off early. Any other questions? These were great. Thank you for asking those and for attending. I appreciate it. I don't see any other questions coming through. You guys have a great rest of your week. We will see you again in December if you'd like to join us for that user group, or no, on Thursday for the user group call, and then December's user group call as well. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you later.